hasn't signed on, they will. Good evening. My name is Jim Galvin, Principal Planner with the Dover-Kent County MPO. The MPO has worked with our partners since 1992 on everything from intersections to congested corridors. In the past few years, we've asked them to include traffic, transport, and transit issues in their comprehensive plans. Tonight's presentation is a result of one of those items in a comprehensive plan. In fiscal year 2020, Kent County and the city of Dover included the Civil Air Terminal idea in their comp plans. Kent County sponsored a study, this study, by the MPO. So we entered into a contract with Century Engineering to take a look at access for users of an expanded Civil Air Terminal and adjacent facility. Tonight's going to be the first public opportunity to hear what Century's come up with. So I'm going to hand it over to Ted Foglietta and let him give you an idea what's going on. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. As Jim said, my name is Ted Foglietta. I'm a planner with Century Engineering, and I'm the project manager for the Dover Freight Study. So I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. We're very excited about your participation. Your participation is very important to us as we go through this study. One of the things I want to remind you of is there's a question and answer button on your screen. As we go through the presentation, go ahead and write questions. We'll answer them at the end, but you don't have to wait till the end. As questions pop up into your head, go ahead and put them in there, and then at the end, actually, Sonia Marichek from Century Engineering will be our moderator, and she'll field those questions and give them to me at the end. One of the things we want to do to encourage your interaction tonight is a series of polling questions. So let's start with our first poll right now. So our first polling question, how did you hear about this workshop? So I'm going to launch that and give you a few minutes to answer that poll, a few seconds, I should say, answer that poll. Okay. Looks like most of you have voted. I'm going to end the polling now, and I'll share the results. So some of you saw it on the MPO website, others on DelDOT's website, but the majority have heard about tonight's results or tonight's workshop through some other means. So at the end, there'll be a comment form at the end of this presentation that you can fill out. I'd ask that you tell us what those other means of how you heard about this workshop. You could put that in there. That'll help us get through this. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to X out of that. So our agenda for tonight, I'm going to talk about the study area and some of the components in the study area, the purpose and need of the study, why we're doing it, what are the goals of the study, discuss and describe some of the existing traffic that we, traffic data that we collected throughout, and then talk about in real basic forms, just some conceptual alternatives that we developed, just lines on paper at this point to get an idea of, some connections we want to make, and then eventually next steps for the study. So here's the study area. The study area, the two big things, if you can see my cursor here, the Civil Air Terminal kind of in the middle of the graphic, Garrison Oaks Technology Park at the north, some of the major highways in the area, roadways. You have Bay Road in the far left, SR1 kind of down the middle, Route 9 along the far right. I have obviously the Dover Air Force Base, and then some east-west roads. You have White Oak Road, SR8 or North Little Creek Road, and South Little Creek Road, just to name a few. Some of these gray numbers here indicate areas where we did traffic counts. So that helped give us an idea of where the traffic was heavier, where it was lighter, where some improvements needed to be made. So that's just an example of some of the work we've done to date. Again, I'd like to launch another polling question. So this is, do you live or work in the study area? I'm going to go ahead and launch that. I guess I could have said live, work, or play, but okay, looks like most of you who have voted, so I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. Pretty dead heat, I'd say. Here are the results. Looks like some of you live and work, and some of you do neither. So I'm going to stop sharing that. I'm going to X out. Okay, moving right along. So I talked about the purpose and need earlier. The primary purpose, actually there's several purposes. One of the primary purposes is to provide better access to both the Civil Air Terminal and Garrison Oaks Technology Park to the north from the regional highway network. Right now, trucks who want to access those facilities have to use a series of local roads that really weren't designed for heavy truck traffic. That causes a couple of problems. One is that it inhibits somewhat firms and industries from locating at those parks because of the lack of connections to the regional highway network, lack of good connections. And it also has a lot of truck traffic using local roads, residential roads, and roads that were not necessarily designed for truck traffic. So we're hoping that with the improvements that we're looking at throughout this study, we can increase the attractiveness of those industrial parks to future industry and business, as well as take that truck traffic, particularly through truck traffic, off the local road network. I'm going to launch another poll. Oh, wrong poll, I'm sorry. And ask you to, if you agree with the purpose and need of this study. Okay, we're going to end the polling now, and we'll share the results. Looks like most of you agree with it. One of you are unsure. For the person that's unsure or who didn't vote, again, I'd encourage you to use your question and answer box and ask questions, whether it's related to the purpose and need or any other material that we cover tonight as we go along, and we'll answer those at the end of the presentation. This is a graphic of the land use in and around the study area from the City of Dover's comprehensive plan. And it's very colorful. You know, these different colors represent different uses, as you see here. The red are commercial areas, the green are agricultural or open space, the gray industrial and vacant space, and down here the blue, this is the Dover Air Force Base. So just to the north of the Dover Air Force Base is the Civil Air Terminal, and then as you continue kind of north and just north of White Oak Road, the gray area here beyond the green open space is the Garrison Oaks Technology Park. I guess the point here is that the improvements that we're talking about, the improvements that we're discussing and looking at tonight, are consistent with the land use plans that the city has identified, the land uses, I should say, that the city has identified. So we want to continue. We want to continue working through this, working with these, and kind of continue to support the city's land use efforts and plans for development within this area. Likewise, we support the city's annexation plans and you can see the Civil Air Terminal to the south and the Garrison Oaks Park to the north. The connections that we make would be in keeping with the annexation results or the annexation goals of the city. And we would like to continue to support and promote the annexation and the growth of the city of Dover in this area with the project and the alternatives that we're working on and hopefully can implement as part of this study. This graphic shows the state investment strategies. The red, which is the majority of the map, indicate strategy level 1, which is the highest investment strategy. That's where the most intense growth would occur. The two yellow boxes represent the Garrison Oaks area and the area in and around the Civil Air Terminal. And the majority of those areas are in this tan color, which is level investment 2, which is also a very high level investment and growth area. On the fringes, it's red, which would be investment area 1. So they are in keeping with the goals of the investment strategies, both from the city and the state. So this graphic shows level of service. Level of service, just quickly, is a grading system for intersections, just like school. You know, A, B, and even down to C, D, or O. D's not good in school, but A, B, and C are really good, and D is even acceptable. E and F are failing or near failing. These are existing levels of service. And as you can see on both graphics, on the left, AM level of service, on the right, PM level of service, both show good to acceptable levels of service for existing traffic. However, as the city promotes, and as growth occurs at the Civil Air Terminal, Garrison's Park, and the investment areas in between the two parks, it could be expected that traffic will increase, particularly truck traffic. So we want to be prepared for that. We want to start to design roads that make that movement a little easier for trucks, a little better for trucks, and also take that truck traffic off of the local road network. It'll help increase and make more attractive those industrial parks to potential industries, and it'll remove that truck traffic from the local road network. Okay, So this graphic shows the truck percentages on the local roadways. The graphic on the left shows the percentage of the roads with and their percentages. Basically, the yellow roads like Route 9, North Little Creek Road, White Oak Road, those are have very high truck percentages. The green have moderate truck percentages, such as South Little Creek Road and portions of SR1 and the Punch and Run Connector, for instance. And then the graphic on the right shows the roads that the city has identified where they want truck traffic, such these are roads shown in blue, and where they don't want truck traffic, like SR9 and portions of East Lebanon Road. So these roads were identified, and the restrictions on these roads are restrictions for through truck traffic. Local deliveries will not be prohibited; they'll be continue to be allowed. But the idea is that trucks that do not have a destination on one of these roads, along one of these roads, the city would prefer that trucks use other roads. So again, the alternatives that we're beginning to look at, and we will further evaluate and further develop, will help to accommodate the city's goals for reducing truck traffic on roads they don't want them on and adding them to the roads they do want them on. Oops. Actually, I think I missed. So I want to launch a poll here as well. And this is do you feel this graphic adequately depicts truck traffic in the study area? So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. And I realize that some of you may not be as in tune to truck traffic if you're driving more work, driving your passenger vehicle, but see how the results come out with this. And we'll provide a little more time. A few of you have answered, but a little more time for some others. All right, looks like most of you have answered or who are going to answer. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and then share the results. And most of you who have answered were unsure. A couple agreed that these graphics give a good representation of the truck traffic in the area. So I'm going to stop sharing these results and move on. Next slide. So this graphic shows some of the area roadway networks. The yellow roads are basically the major roads within the highway network. You have Bay Road to the left, SR1 kind of through the center, Route 9 on the right. And they're, the major kind of through roads that travelers and trucks are using. The red roads generally are roads that truckers would use to go to and from the Garrison Oaks Park. They include White Oak Road, Long Point Road, Acorn Lane, and North Little Creek Road. Now, some of these roads, like Acorn Lane, are small residential roads that were not designed for truck traffic. You can see the graphic, the picture, top picture here on the right of Acorn Lane. It's a small road, residential, doesn't even have shoulders. So it really wasn't designed for truck traffic, yet many trucks are still using it as they leave Garrison Oaks to access SR1 or the reverse trip heading into Garrison Oaks from SR1 and some of the other roadways. So again, a goal is to remove truck traffic off of roads like Acorn Road with some of the improvements that we'll talk about later. The bottom graphic or the bottom photo shows the intersection of White Oak Road and Acorn Lane. Now, White Oak Road is a designated truck route. It is able to accommodate trucks. However, the intersection of White Oak Road and Acorn Lane is difficult for trucks to negotiate. And it's also difficult for passenger vehicles who often come in conflict with trucks as trucks are trying to negotiate that turn and passenger vehicles are coming out of Acorn Lane and want to go on to White Oak Road. So again, with some of the improvements that we're going to look at later, hopefully we could eliminate or greatly reduce the amount of truck traffic on roads like Acorn Lane. The orange roads on this graphic basically are the roads that trucks would use to get to and from the Civil Air Terminal. Again, they include Lafferty Lane, Horse Pond Road, South Little Creek Road, and Fox Road. Like the roads that trucks currently use for the Garrisons Park, many of these roads were not designed for truck traffic, were not originally designed for truck traffic, and really can't accommodate heavy truck traffic now, or shouldn't accommodate heavy truck traffic now. Those roads include Fox Road, Lafferty Lane, and Horse Pond Road. The top photo here shows Fox Road. Again, a country road, not originally designed for truck traffic, kind of an idyllic setting, no shoulders. So really not a road where we'd like to see trucks, especially trucks that don't have a destination, a local destination, and just want to get through there to one of the regional highways. Again, the middle graphic shows the intersection of Fox Road and North Little Creek Road, and the bottom South Little Creek Road and Fox Road. North and South Little Creek roads are able to accommodate trucks, certainly much better than Fox Road. But again, those intersections become problematic with trucks trying to negotiate them, turn onto them, and conflicts with passenger vehicles and heavy trucks. And then just some more photos of the roads that trucks currently use to access the Civil Air Terminal. Lafferty Lane, again, a country road, very nice country road, but really not designed for truck traffic. Same with Horse Pond Road, very small shoulders, very tight, not really a road, oops, sorry about that. Not really a road that was designed for truck traffic. And then the intersection of Horse Pond and Lafferty is, as I said a couple of times tonight, problematic for trucks and causes conflicts with trucks and passenger vehicles. Again, I want to remind you all to use your question and answer button to ask questions as we go through the presentation, and we'll answer them when we get to the end. So what we're showing here is our base map of the study area with our land uses. The green symbols represent wetlands. I think we all know that we need to avoid wetlands. The blue areas represent agricultural easements. These kind of multicolored corridors, there's two of them, one here on the left and one to the right, are accident potential zones. And then kind of this gold or brown area, in this area, it's a little hard to see on this base, are areas where DelDOT has obtained development rights, kind of adjacent to North Little Creek Road. So, so in this area, we basically wanted to show some of the improvements that we're beginning to talk about. And those improvements include, in the light blue, some minor improvements on Lafferty Lane. Also in the light blue here, minor improvements on Horse Pond Road. Some minor improvements on existing Starlifter Avenue, and then a proposed extension of Starlifter Avenue and a proposed extension of Horse Pond Road. What these red circles represent are areas that have been identified by the city as growth areas. The northern area represents the area in and around Garrison Oaks. The central area is an area kind of north of the Civil Air Terminal that the city has identified as a growth area, and the bottom is the Civil Air Terminal area. Again, you can see the alternatives that we're conceptually discussing and evaluating would take advantage of and not interfere with the proposed growth areas that are shown on this map. So kind of zooming in a little bit, here, we're showing Horse Pond Road, Lafferty Lane, and Starlifter. Again, recommending minor improvements to these roads. For instance, this intersection of Lafferty Lane and Horse Pond Road might need some improving. This area along Starlifter, this existing area, could use some improvements. But then also an extension potentially from Starlifter's current terminus up through this area that's been identified as a growth area up to South Little Creek Road, and then an extension of Horse Pond Road from its current terminus with South Little Creek Road up, and I'll show you on the next graphic, up to and extending into across White Oak Road and into Garrison Oaks Technology Park. Right now, I'd like to share another poll question. And actually, it's a series, it's 3 questions, so I'll give you a lot of time for this one. It's, do you support improvements to Lafferty Lane? Do you support improvements to Horse Pond Road? And again, this would be improvements to the existing roads. I'm not asking about the extensions here, I will. But I am asking about the extension of Starlifter on this poll. So I'm gonna go ahead and launch this poll and give you some time to answer those questions. So the improvements that we would be talking about on the existing would be shoulder improvements, maybe some, maybe adding some shoulders, some lane improvements in areas where we had the room, widening some lanes. And obviously, I mentioned upgrades of some of the intersections. So they're the types of improvements we're talking about to the existing roads. Looks like we're getting a lot of good feedback, so thank you very much. And we have some questions in the Q&A box, so that's great. Really appreciate your participation and input. Okay, it looks like most of you have voted, so I'm going to end the polling now. Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay, I'll end it. And I will, let's see, looks like most of you agree with the alternatives. That's great. So I am going to share these results. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing now. Now here's the extension of Horse Pond Road I discussed. That's got several advantages. It would provide better connections between the two industrial parks. And again, we think by doing that, that makes those two industrial parks more attractive to future industry. It promotes the growth areas in between the two parks, giving a nice road for trucks to use. That development could potentially occur off of that road, off that extension. And it also would remove or at least greatly reduce truck traffic along Fox Road. So we think this extension really serves a lot of purposes and really are going to take a hard look at it, and hopefully it's able to be implemented if it's supported. Oh, it also obviously ties into the growth area in and around Garrison Oaks. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here as well, and ask you to vote on those. And there's two questions here. Do you support the extension of Horse Pond Road? And do you support removing or reducing truck traffic from Fox Road? I think I just shared that. Yeah, okay, people are voting. Okay, you're all voting. I'm going to end the poll. Looks like you all voted now. Most of you look like you support this. These two more votes coming in. Okay, I'm going to end it now. I'll share the results. See that most of you agree with both the extension of Horse Pond Road and removing the truck traffic. A couple of you are unsure. Okay. So that kind of wraps up what we have for tonight. Our schedule or next steps would be to kind of take the feedback we received tonight through the polling questions as well as the Q&A when we get to it, and take that information back to the project management committee. Based on that feedback, we will revise the conceptual alternatives and then really start to get into them a little more thoroughly and really kind of make alternatives out of them. As I said when I started, this is more to introduce the project, get your general feedback, and just make sure that for the most part, the community was aware of and supported the general philosophies and general ideas of the study. So that's why, again, they were just kind of showing connections and that sort of thing. So we'll revise those and really make those more of alternatives for the next workshop. We expect to wrap up that process this fall. Then we will come back out to the community with our final workshop in the winter, where again, we'll present those alternatives I described earlier, and we will present, and then we will develop our final report that'll have all of our findings and our final recommendations in this report that will be available. So that's where we are. This is where we are, and this is where we're headed. We'd like to get this entire study wrapped up by the end of this year. We were a little behind based on a couple of things that occurred, including the COVID pandemic. So we're trying to kind of combine a couple of workshops into this first one, or a couple of points in this first one, and hopefully we can have some good alternatives to show you at the next workshop. So with that, I would like to thank you very much for your participation. Again, I encourage you, if you haven't asked questions yet, to ask your questions. As I said, Sonia Marichek will moderate those, and myself or others on the panel will hopefully be able to answer them. And I guess this presentation will be posted, I would think, on the MPO website. And if there's any questions that you have after this, I encourage you to contact the MPO with those questions or any comments you have. And we'll continue to keep this an open dialogue as we develop these alternatives. So thank you. And at this point, I'll open to questions.
All right, we have a series of some really good questions. So I will start us off with the first one. When were the traffic studies completed? If it was completed over the last 6 months, would it be hard to consider them valid or consider them normal traffic data due to the COVID shutdown? So I can answer that, actually. All the traffic counts were collected in September and October of 2019, well before COVID hit. And there was one additional count that occurred along White Oak Road in February of 2020. So that also occurred pre-COVID. So the traffic information that we have is valid and is pre-COVID information. And as we go through answering these questions, feel free to ask follow-up questions. We want to try to answer as many of your questions this evening as we can. The second question is about the annexation map that you showed. Does this mean that these areas are not considered part of the city of Dover? So I'm not sure if one of our panelists would like to answer that.
Could you repeat the question, Sonia, please?
On the annexation map,
Yeah.
do the areas that you showed, are they not considered part of the city of Dover?
So this is Jim Galvin. If it's an annexation map, it means that it isn't included in the municipal boundaries of the city. But the city is willing to extend the boundaries out to those parcels if the development potential was there, and if the parcel owners requested it.
All right. Next question. Are we looking at expanding the existing roads, or are we looking at putting in new roads?
I mean, again, these are concepts, but I think both alternatives are on the table. Both options are on the table. As I said, we'd like to do some minor improvements to some of the local roads, such as Lafferty Lane and Horse Pond Road. Those would be maybe some shoulder improvements, some road, just general road improvements. Maybe, as I said, where the right-of-way permits, we could do some intersection improvements. But then we are looking at extensions of new roads. So that extension of Starlifter, let me go to it. That extension of Starlifter would be a new facility, a new roadway up to South Little Creek Road. So right now, that dark blue does not exist. Similarly, let me go back. Horse Pond Road kind of has a terminus now at South, not kind of, it does have a terminus at South Little Creek Road. And we are suggesting a potential extension up to and through White Oak Road and into Garrison Oaks. So both, again, very conceptually, but at this stage, we're considering both.
Next question. What is the thinking behind taking trucks off of Route 9? Would it be preferable to keep them on Route 9 rather than having them in the downtown areas?
I'll take that one, Sonia. The truck restriction on Route 9 has been in place since the mid 80s. And so it was a desire to, once Route 1 got constructed, it was a desire to keep that regional traffic on Route 1 instead of taking the Route 9 exit and working up. Typically, they would work up to Smyrna and then take 12 6 back in to try to connect back into 13. And so that restriction's been there a long time and the restrictions are for regional trucks, not local trucks. We have a lot of agriculture in the area, so those trucks can utilize the roadways and facilities there. Local services, deliveries, all of those types of trucks can use Route 9. The desire is to allow those regional trucks to be on Route 1. And part of this study is to allow better access for trucks to get on Route 1. I think it's the desire for the local community and to leverage that higher type facility to manage and handle the truck traffic in the area.
And again, as we're answering these questions, feel free to add follow-up questions if you still have questions on the topic that you initially submitted on. So the next question is, are these side roads being used so that trucks can get on and off SR1? Are we trying to put more access points on SR1?
I mean, I think the goal, or one of the primary goals, truck traffic in both industrial parks typically that want to go north-south typically want to access Route 1. So our goal is to the extent possible, have those trucks not use the local road network and use some of the alternatives that we're talking about to provide easier and better access to Route 1. That we also, the concepts that we're talking about also would provide better access to some of the east-west roads, White Oak Road, North and South Little Creek roads, so that truck traffic that want to go east-west and or out to the Bay Bridge, for instance, that kind of thing, they could use those roads to access it, again, rather than going through the local roads in the study area that were not designed for truck traffic.
And Ted, if I could also add that that these connections, what we're trying to do is get that heavier type truck traffic to the existing Route 8 ramps onto Route 1. So we're not proposing through this study any additional accesses to Route 1. We're just trying to make better connections to that existing interchange so that they can access that interchange through these higher type facilities rather than being on the more residential streets that they use now.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
So the next question asks whether Garrison Oaks Technology Park occupants will be interviewed or included as part of this study.
Yes. Again, this came together kind of quickly. We were doing some work and were shut down because of the pandemic. So we kind of crunched some things together. But yes, to answer in a word, yes, we will reach out to not just the business owners in Garrisons, but also at the Civil Air Terminal. And we will also reach out to the residences in the area. So we want your feedback because, we think we have a good feel of where we want the trucks to go, where we don't want them to go based on our coordination with the city and the rest of the project management committee. But, there's nothing like hearing it from the horse's mouth. And if we're not addressing something that needs to be addressed, or we're proposing something that, isn't really going to be used, well, then none of us want that. So absolutely, we're going to reach out and coordinate with the business owners and residents in the area.
The next question is, can you explain the connection between the two industrial parks? They seem dissimilar in nature.
Well, I think there is, there's a desire, there seems to be a desire to have that connection. There's some different, you're right, there are some different land uses, but I think there's the potential for future growth that could be, there could be some synergy between. We've heard that through some of the early on kind of data gathering that we were doing. So I think it's more, we're looking at, you know, the future and what's coming, and we're trying to prepare for, you know, a build out and hopefully some additional industry at both parks that kind of have shared or similar uses.
The next question, will this study propose north and south access to Route 1 on the extension of Horse Pond Road?
So again, qualify by saying these are extremely conceptual, literally lines on paper. Right now, we're not showing an additional access onto Route 1. Probably won't show an additional access point onto Route 1. But you know, again, we're so early in the process. If there is a desire to look at it, we will look at it and consider it. But right now, no, that's not on the table.
Can you explain a little bit more about how these new roadway extensions will assist in the overall project goals? Is this enough to make the traffic move from other roads, or are there other initiatives that this will be combined with?
Well, I think that, you know, nothing is going to, you know, there's no one solution to all the traffic problems anywhere, including this study area. But I think that, you know, not only do the residents not necessarily want through truck traffic on the local roads, but I don't think the trucks very much enjoy being on those roads either. And I think they'd very much prefer, you know, if not improvements or if not extensions, at least improvements to the existing road. So I do think that trucks, given the option, would, for instance, use the extension of Horse Pond Road or Star Lifter Road to access some of the roads that can accommodate them, as I said, like South Little Creek, North Little Creek, and to access Route 1. Could there be other improvements that we look at? Absolutely. And particularly as development comes in, you know, we might need to look at additional improvements, additional infrastructure, and potentially, as going back to the previous question, potentially additional or expanded access to Route 1.
Our next question talks about there's been some discussion of putting additional access points at Route 1 near Dover Downs. Is this still in process? And how will it help or impact this study?
Do you have a feel for that?
Yes, there. I know that DelDOT did do a feasibility study on those ramps to provide an additional access to Route 1 to the back of, actually it was the Dover Mall area. There were some interconnections to Dover Downs as part of that study. I think that project is really contingent on the redevelopment efforts of the mall and that property behind the mall. It is, it's close to this project study area, but it's really disconnected through a series of wetlands that we're not really able to make the connection from this project up to that area. So they're really separate and distinct project areas. I'm not too sure whether they answered the question, Sonia. So
if that did not fully answer the question, please submit a subsequent question and we can try to narrow down into exactly what you'd like to hear. It did. Great.
okay.
She said it did answer the question. So our next question is at Route 1 and Route 8. That is not a full north-south access. Are we proposing to improve that as part of this study?
Again, not at this time, but it could be something that's looked at. But right now, with the improvements we're recommending, and again, very conceptual, but the improvements we're recommending, including the extension of Horse Pond, we're not looking at making that a full interchange at this point.
And we have no additional questions. So if you have anything else you're thinking of, feel free to submit.
We can give everyone a few more minutes, maybe. Looks like, is there one more question, maybe?
There's one more question or comment. This area will need trucks to be able to go south.
It's definitely a part of the thinking as we lay out these what I'll call industrial type streets east of Route 1. So part of the thinking is that they would be able to traverse down this Horse Pond Road extension to get to Lafferty Lane, Bay Road, access Route 1 south at that point. So it's still keeping the trucks on the higher type facilities. It's you're traveling south to go south. And so that's why we weren't focused necessarily on adding the new ramps at Route 8. There's a lot of, obviously a lot of growth that's already there that really limits the potential for south-serving ramps specifically at that location.
And it's another reason why we're looking at, some minor improvements to the existing Horse Pond and Lafferty Lane roads for that southbound truck traffic.
Right. And Jim might want to comment on this, is that, we think that the bulk of the traffic is, north serving. There is some demand south down the peninsula, but it's still a peninsula. It still is, doesn't connect to the regional network. North is what connects to the Northeast corridor where all the freight movement really happens. And so we've got, as we think about access to central Delaware, Kent County, it's Route 1 north up to the Northeast corridor, or heading west to try to access the Bay Bridge and access the metropolitan areas west of the Chesapeake. And so I know that the MPO also has another study that is being done to look at those east-west corridors, and probably a workshop is coming up on those in the not too distant future.
Thanks, Drew. I think you're right. But it all comes down to whoever decides to use our industrial parks. If there's somebody, a producer there that needs to transport makes something that needs to be valuable, or that is valuable down to somebody on the peninsula, we still need to be able to get to Route 1 south. But I think most of the traffic's obviously going to be north or west. You're right. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any more questions, Sonia? I don't see any more.
Any other questions? Send them our way. We want to keep Ted on the hot seat.
Maybe you just give some closing statements while give people an opportunity if they do have any more questions. So again, I just wanted to thank everyone on behalf of the study team. Thank you for your participation. As I said, this is just our first workshop. We'll be back out with some more detailed studies and some more detailed information on the alternatives. This presentation will be available on the MPO's website. And just one last thing, that at the end of this presentation, there is a kind of a full survey, full comment form, where it'll ask some general questions about the quality of the presentation and that sort of thing. But it'll also give you the opportunity to, really write out your comment forms, kind of like you would do at a live public workshop, where you could, just kind of not be limited to the questions we're asking, the polling questions. You'd have the opportunity to just, give us your input on whatever it is. I see another question pop up. Is there another question?
It was just a general comment that the presentation was good.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Jim, did you want to say anything in closing? Okay. Well, I guess that wraps things up for tonight. Again, thank you. And I encourage you to use the comment form at the end. And I look forward to our next workshop. Hopefully at some point we can do another live workshop. If not, we'll come to you virtually again. And we will reach out to those business owners at both parks as well as the residents in between. So thanks again and good night.